Today we are going to be looking at the weekly energy patterns for week 24th until the 31st of August. Two of the big major aspects I have already described yesterday and the day before yesterday. So, of course, one of them is going to be the Jupiter and Saturn trine, and the other one is Mars and Saturn square. So, I prepared two separate videos about those. So, you might want to be listening to them. Those include a load of information so that you can really get ready for the week ahead. Of course, this week we have got a lunar eclipse happening as well, but I'm going to be making a separate video about that, and it's only available for my Patreons. So if you are curious how the lunar eclipse is going to be impacting you, check out on my website the membership program, or even you can do that on the YouTube channel as well. In this video, we are going to be talking about Vesta going retrograde on 27 degree of Aries. Mercury is going to be making a conjunction to the South Node, as well as it enters the sign of Virgo, and it's going to make a trine to Chiron. Mercury also will be in sextile to Ceres in the sign of Cancer, and it's going to be squaring Uranus as well as conjuncts the Sun. So there's going to be a rebirth of Mercury. On top of that, that Sun and Mercury also will be in quincunx to Pluto and Neptune as well. Venus will be in opposition to Pallas Athene, and this is basically the major aspect configurations the week ahead. Like I mentioned earlier, I've already broken down Jupiter and Saturn trine, as well as the Mars square Saturn for all 12 signs as well. So welcome back to my channel. My name is AstroViktor. If you're new here, welcome. During my episodes, you can ask as many questions as you would like to. If I can answer them, I'm more than happy to do so. In this particular episode, I'm going to be breaking down the weekly energy patterns, but usually I make educational videos. So you can visit, for example, my Facebook channel, where I write 3-4 articles weekly about various topics. Lately, yesterday, or I think today, actually, I wrote an article about Mars being a planet of depression, and I explained why it might make someone depressed. So if you are curious, you can go ahead and join my Facebook group as well. And I'm very excited to announce that I am about to launch a course on the drawing test. So I'm going to teach you how to spot traumatic experiences in your life through your drawing, because the pencil becomes a subconscious continuation of your experiences, as well as it's going to talk to you about personality traits and presenting pretty much what type of issues you are facing currently. But this drawing test was introduced to spot potential health issues that you are always going to have to be kind of like aware of. So if you are interested, this is still 50% off until Sunday midnight. So go ahead and book your seat right now. So let's get going with the energy pattern. Right now, I'm just going to talk you through, because for some reason the screen is just freezing. I noticed that yesterday as well. So I'm going to be showing you at the end the charts. I'm going to walk you through the aspects. The very first stop is on the 24th, when Vesta goes retrograde on 27 degree of Aries. Vesta is about the sacred flame. It's about devotion. It feels like that Vesta is helping us to redefine our personal mission. Whenever a planet or an asteroid goes retrograde, that outward self-assertion goes to auditing, where your vital energy is actually kind of like being spent. So it's a little bit of an inward moment. It could be about questioning whether you are fighting for a cause, for example, that still matter to you or to your core identity, or simply kind of like reacting out of certain type of habits. Aries wants to charge ahead, but Vesta's retrograde kind of demands a bit of a pause. It feels like that our Aries cusp of our chart is really slowed down. Why? Because Saturn is also retrograde there. Neptune is retrograde, and Pallas Athene is about to turn retrograde as well. So it's really not about a forward momentum. Maybe actually you feel burned out in that particular part of your chart by over-investing in battles or individual ventures, and maybe those are not necessarily feeding your focus anymore or feeling your mission anymore. Maybe you have to be redefining independence as well. Maybe you are called upon withdrawing energy from all these external competitions or self-proving dynamics to protect your personal space or mental clarity. And maybe you have to be revisiting commitments, previous commitments as well. Maybe it's a project or a cause you initiated with a lot of passion earlier in the year, and now it requires restructuring to ensure it somehow remains sustainable. So this is not necessarily a time, surely, to launch something new, a solo initiatives at full speed. Sometimes it's just good to take a step back, right? To prune our daily commitments, dropping tasks that drain our drive or vitality, so you can concentrate purely on the work that directly aligns with your long-term autonomy. Now, on the 25th, Mercury makes a conjunction to South Node in the sign of Leo, and then enters Virgo, and it straight away makes a trine to Chiron in the sign of Taurus. So, whenever South Node gets activated, we are meant to be releasing something. In the sign of Leo, this is something theatrical, ego-attached communication habits in favor of objective, kind of like functional clarity. So this is typically with Mercury and the South in the sign of Leo is when we are making a mountain out of a mole. So maybe we have to be stepping out of this performative validation, into more the Mercury's domicile, which is Virgo, right? So precision, systemization, craft, upgrading our skills, or fixing certain things in our lives as well. We're going to have to get a little bit more grounded. We're going to have to release whatever is mentally straining us. And we can do that through tangible, kind of like sensory solutions, or even healing as well. We are talking about Chiron, first of all, which is the asteroid of healing, but the earth signs are also very focused on the physical body as well. It really feels like with Mercury and the South Node that we are meant to be going through this mental detox, right? So I'm going to be shedding outdated stories about recognition, pride, dramatic reactions. It's a moment of realizing that defending kind of like an ego narrative is actually unhelpful. It's exhausting. It's also a reminder that we have to be able to sharpen our focus. Once Mercury enters the sign of Virgo, that type of like brain fog should start lifting up, right? The mind is going to be shifting immediately towards efficiency, editing, sorting things out, refining workflows. Maybe we become more health conscious as well, with Chiron being in the picture. We start spotting more structural flows, something that got overlooked previously. Because Mercury in Virgo trines Chiron in Taurus, so rather than agonizing over a vulnerability or even material insecurity that Chiron unfortunately can create in the sign of Taurus, I'm going to focus on building a concrete kind of like step-by-step system to address the issue. Somehow it wants you to bring your mind and your physical reality together. Let them cooperate together. Let them fix kind of like practical pain points in your life. It really feels like that many of us are going to be recognizing that an ongoing disagreement was being bruised or driven by bruised egos rather than facts. That's the Mercury and the South Node. So I'm going to stop trying to win the argument. I'm going to switch the conversation into kind of like an operational spreadsheet with exact dates and matrix and negotiate a realistic kind of like sustainable budget with Chiron in the sign of Taurus. And hopefully that's going to be permanently resolving that underlying resource issue that Chiron in the sign of Taurus can talk to us about. Now that Mercury makes a sextile to Ceres as well in the sign of Cancer, and it's going to make a Uranus square as well, and it makes a conjunction to the Sun. So this is all happening somewhere between the 26th to the 29th of August. So let's just look at the very first square to Uranus from Mercury, because that's going to be the very first step there, right? So something gets mentally disrupted there, or there is a sudden awakening. It's giving you way to absolute clarity. It's the realization of your purpose. And surely it does talk to us about having to balance intellectual agility with emotional nourishment, because Ceres is involved. It's in the sign of Cancer, right? And Cancer is about emotional nourishment. It's about caregiving boundaries as well. And it feels like that you are moving from this chaotic mental breakthrough towards systematic, kind of like grounded execution and healing. So I can imagine that there is an unexpected news with Mercury and Uranus. There is a bit of a nervous system tension there. There is maybe quite a mess up, for example, in your schedule, right? Because something comes up. And of course, you can get super worried about not being able to follow your schedule, because Mercury in Virgo wants to kind of like go with what is in that diary. And Uranus can also try to break that entrenched thought patterns through kind of like a lot of like rapid fire information. Why? Because it is trying to force mental adaptability onto you. Then Mercury makes that conjunction to the Sun. So this is about a cazimi state. A cazimi is when the two planets are so close that they are kind of like melted together. Cazimi, Mercury cazimi is about clarity. It's certain type of core insights that get crystallized. So surely this is telling me that the mental fog burns off and giving you the definite answer that you are looking for, or it's giving you the definitive realization or decision regarding the true direction that you would like to work towards to. And then it goes to make a sextile to Ceres in the sign of Cancer. So there are some constructive communication around physical and emotional well-being, even home stability. You are having this healing conversation with a member of your family. You are talking about resources potentially, and the intellect aligns with that emotional sustainability. So therefore, making that tough decision is being supported potentially by your family members as well, or those tough decisions feel supportive rather than just harsh, whoever you have to be having that conversation with. And of course, we had Chiron getting activated previously. So it feels like that Uranus gave that erratic spark and a lot of clarity there with the cazimi, and it's going to get filtered through that Virgo's analytical lens and that Taurus's steady kind of realism, right? So Taurus is about creating something concrete. So this aspect configuration altogether is really talking to me about an actionable solution. You are finding solutions to your self-worth issues. You are finding solution to your living circumstances, or something to do with your money shortages as well. So I can even imagine with Mercury and Uranus experiencing some technical glitch, for example, or you receive an email that shocks you somehow, and that could be triggering this kind of like breakthrough about how broken your, let's say, current administrative workflow really is, right? That's the Mercury cazimi. So instead of panicking, you are going to be addressing your well-being, for example. You are going to be asking for help from your team, because with Mercury and Ceres, Ceres is in the sign of Cancer, so that could really talk to you about your chosen family or your actual family as well. And we're going to go through this audit, auditing the outdated steps that caused maybe a bottleneck. For example, that was Mercury and the South Node in the sign of Leo. And we're going to transition into this very clean, maybe a new database system, Mercury in Virgo, right? And then we're going to start finding the daily rhythm in our life. And that's going to prevent us from burning out going forward. And that would be the trine to Chiron in the sign of Taurus. So, of course, one of the most important part of this configuration is the Mercury and Sun conjunction. We call it as a superior conjunction, okay? So whenever Mercury makes a conjunction to the Sun, it's a rebirth moment. And its impact is lasting approximately about 4 months. So these predictions are not going to be necessarily this week. It's going to be playing out in the next 4 months for you. Mercury is direct, right? Mercury, whenever it's super close to the sun, it is moving super fast as well. So it can go up to 2.2 degrees a day as well. So you can think of it as a full moon phase of Mercury's synodic cycle. So the idea seeded during the last retrograde is actually reaching this full illumination, an external realization. So you might want to be revisiting when Mercury retrograde made a conjunction to the Sun as well, because you can get sudden insights about that. You can get sudden news about those topics as well. Now, the Uranus was a kind of like a sudden spark, right? So Uranus is in the sign of Gemini. So that's a catalyst there, right? It's abrupt. It's a surge of mental speed, but also pattern recognition as well, or innovative breakthroughs. It's shattering certain type of cognitive loops that you might have been in for a while, maybe in the last 4 months or so. And it's about having to mentally go through this evolutionary process. The Mercury is evolving from the heart of the sun, right? And crossing into Virgo. So Mercury operates at peak speed. It's in full essential dignity because it's in rulership and exaltation as well. So Mercury has got the capacity to turn that electric lightning bolt into practical kind of deployable system. So don't get too scared about that Mercury and Uranus square, because actually it does sound pretty good. Sometimes we need that lightning rod, right, to kick our butts so that we can come up with a solution, we can come up with a system. So I think because Mercury rules thought process, communication, data, it just happens way faster when Uranus is involved as well. And, maybe you have been deliberating on a solution for weeks, and then all of a sudden the solution just can pop up to you. I think it can even help you to break out of any type of mental ruts as well, like assumptions, creative blocks, even bureaucratic delays. All of those can get bypassed because you are coming up with this out-of-the-box strategy, and that's Uranus. Yes, Uranus sometimes causes a bit of a chaos as well. So, of course, Uranus might be giving us more chaotic flashes, right? And we don't know how to dissipate them immediately. So, but the Mercury is going to start working on organizing them, stress testing them, and then we can integrate at least one of those into our daily life. So yes, there is a challenge. Sun and Mercury makes a conjunction, and it's in quincunx to Pluto and Neptune as well. So, Mercury in Virgo is about micro adjustments, doing things meticulously, and whenever a planet is in quincunx, that shows somehow irritation. So there is a friction here between day-to-day practical execution, that's Virgo, and then ideological, visionary kind of collective movements. And that's the Aquarius and the Aries planets there. So what I'm kind of, obviously Pluto and Neptune are kind of like in sextile, right? So that's a generational blueprint, and it feels like that those two are pushing for radical technological reform, systematic evolution, kind of like pioneering ideas. But right now, Sun and Mercury are the apex of that configuration. So Mercury and the Sun are sitting kind of like at the focal point of, we call this as a yod configuration, or the finger of fate, or the finger of gods, right? So quincunxes are 150-degree aspects, and they are describing usually certain type of medical issues, or they are describing irritations where we have to be able to make adjustments in our life. The challenges with quincunxes that they don't share the same element or modality or polarity or even gender. So while Virgo wants precise, controllable data, Pluto demands their surrender to systematic power shifts, while Neptune injects this raw kind of like unrefined idealism. So, the only way through is constant adjustments, whatever problem is coming up there, but Mercury is really capable of being able to do that. I can imagine that it's an existential anxiety, for example, or a sudden pressure from changing an industry that you are in, or certain type of policies that could kind of like irritate you, right? Because with Pluto, it's something that you cannot control directly. You cannot always influence it. And then how easy it is to get frustrated by that, right? So then Venus is in the sign of Libra, and it's making an opposition to Pallas Athene. This is happening on the 28th of August. So Venus previously made an opposition to Saturn as well, which was really about relationship tests, right? But I spoke about that in the last week's video. Now it's running into that opposition to Pallas Athene. It's surely about diplomacy. It's Pallas Athene is very tactical. Venus in Libra is all about diplomacy, and Pallas Athene wants to come up with a strategy. Yes, balancing relationship harmony, kind of like asking for consensus or consensus building with some type of independent tactical actions, because Pallas Athene in the sign of Aries is tactical actions about independence. And we might need to be able to negotiate terms where keeping the peace cannot come at the cost of your personal boundaries or personal, like your sovereignty, or when it shouldn't be clashing with your tactical or personal goals. Yes, Venus is super strong, and Venus is prioritizing balance and grace and legal fairness, even mutual compromise. It wants to align, basically, but it aligns through charm and dialogue. Pallas Athene in Aries, that's really much of a warrior intelligence. It's kind of like sharp, tactical maneuvers, swift problem solving, even unapologetic self-defense. So an opposition is like a tug of war. It's a tension between preserving an alliance or preserving a relationship and executing a necessary strategy. So somehow it exposes that being nice weakens your tactical positioning, but being too harsh and rude are also weakening connections with others. So how am I going to be able to find the middle ground? Yes, maybe you are meant to be confronting passive-aggressive dynamics, recognizing where compromise has turned into more of a self-sabotage, And you need a bit more of a tactical response, and that's Pallas in the sign of Aries. Or there could be a contractual or kind of like partnership frictions as well. Maybe we have got a business, for example, and then we cannot agree on how to move forward. Where maybe it's where one party wants to kind of keep up appearances and the other insists on kind of like immediate action. And we cannot necessarily agree on that. Opposition is when two planets are not necessarily on the same page. So this is the aspect configuration for the week ahead. Like I said, I have spoken about Jupiter and Saturn trine separately, as well as the Mars and Saturn square as well. So you would need to be kind of like adding all those information into this as well. Otherwise, this would have been a good 4.5 hour video, because I've spoken about Saturn, Mars, and Jupiter and Saturn all together for about a good 3.5 hours. So I didn't necessarily want to do that. So let me show you then the aspect configurations on the screen as well. So yesterday when I made the video, I noticed that for some reason during the stream, the screen didn't change. And unfortunately, Nova really kind of like notified me about it. I was changing the screen, going on the right rising sign and so forth, but it somehow got stuck on one chart. So maybe I'm still not necessarily the greatest when it comes to technology, and I'm super aware of that anyway, that I'm not necessarily the greatest at it, but hopefully you will be able to see now that I'm moving the chart forward. So let's just have a look at what really happens this week. So the very first step was Vesta went stationary retrograde on 27 degree. So remember, Vesta is about focus and commitments. And whenever an energy is retrograde, we're going to have to focus a little bit on the internal part of our lives. We're going to have to figure out who we are. We have been projecting a picture that potentially is not us fully just yet. And you can see that Neptune is retrograde, Saturn is retrograde, Pallas Athene is retrograde, Vesta is retrograde as well. So unfortunately, the Aries cusp of our chart is not functioning in the bestest possible way right now. So that was the very first step. Then if we are moving forward, then we will start spotting Mercury. So you see that on the 24th, Mercury is making a conjunction to the South Node. And then on the 25th, Mercury shifts into the sign of Virgo, and straight away it makes a trine to Chiron. So this is very important because, of course, Mercury is moving into its rulership as well as exaltation. So the mind becomes way more practical. It is going to try to come up with certain type of solutions to any of the bottlenecks that we have to be able to overcome. Previously, Mercury was making a conjunction to the South Node. So there was a realization there that letting go of validation, entertainment, ego-related attachments, and so forth are necessary, because that's the way how I'm going to be able to solve a problem. So what I also find very interesting here is that Regulus is on 0 degree of Virgo. So of course the Sun made a conjunction to Regulus, and then now Mercury makes a conjunction to Regulus as well. And Regulus is a royal star. So you can think of it as a sunshine, or you can even think of it as the solutions are going to be coming through a third person. Someone you look up to, because we tend to be looking up to kings, right? So then Mercury moves forward, and you will see that Mercury here makes a conjunction to the Sun, but both of them are making a quincunx to Pluto, a quincunx to Neptune, and both of them are squaring Uranus as well. So this is where, of course, the quincunxes are creating frustration. So we are frustrated that we are not as powerful or innovative as we would like to. We can get frustrated because the vision that we have in mind is unfortunately looks unreachable or vague a little bit. But then we have got this sudden of awakening coming with Uranus, or maybe even it's a frustrating piece of information. But Mercury and the Sun conjunction is about clarity. And then once that happened, Mercury then runs into a sextile immediately with Ceres on the 28th. So you can even think of Ceres as a way out of this very difficult kind of yod configuration. So what's the way out? I'm going to have to take care of myself, of my emotional well-being. I'm going to have to be able to talk about the past. I'm going to have to revisit the past where the solution has been born already. I'm just going to have to go down a bit of a memory lane, or I'm going to have to have healing conversations with my family, with my chosen family, because they might be able to enlighten me. So that would be the Mercury. And then last but not least, you can see that Venus is going to be making an opposition to Pallas Athene on the 29th. So other thing that we haven't spoken about, but on the 31st, Jupiter is making a trine to Saturn. And then on the very same day, or on the 1st of September, depending on where you are, Mars makes a square to Saturn as well. So this is what I broke down for all 12 signs in about a good 4-hour, 3.5 hours video. So you can listen to those on my YouTube channel. So I would like to see whether you guys have got any questions on the week ahead. This is a shorter video. I'm not going to be breaking this down for all 12 signs. But like I said, if you are really curious about how the eclipse is going to be affecting you, you can join my YouTube membership, or you can join my membership on my website as well. And the membership is really about free tiers. Level 1 is giving you 5 webinars a month that you can access free of charge. Of course, it's part of the membership, as well as you can watch the lunation reports. Level 2 gives you access to all past webinars. And level 3 access gives you any courses, any webinars in the past and in the future as well. So level 3 is approximately about 79 British pound a month, or I think it's about 900 British pound for an entire year. And you can watch 250 courses and webinars all together as many times as you would like to. No time limit, no restriction. You can watch them all. So thank you for being here. I don't see any questions for today, so I hope this video helps, and I will see you next week. Take care, everyone. Have a blessed weekend. Bye-bye.